Hi, Paul here from Paradis Pools. We're going to show you how to clean your filter and how to maintain it today. First things first, the easiest way to tell when you need to clean your filter is by sticking your hand in front of the return. When the water does not push strong anymore, it's time to clean. When it's still pushing strong, you're good and it's clean. Even though it's pushing strong, we're going to show you how to clean it anyways. And anytime it's running, you want to do anything on your filter, you want to make sure you turn the water off. The easiest way to do that, there's an on and off switch back here. Here and here. And then you open up this black plug. Let your water out. Squeeze the two black handles and spin. At that time, you take this out, bring it to a garden hose, and rinse it nice and clean. You don't want to use a power washer just because this is paper. So just a garden hose with a nozzle or your thumb, whatever's easiest. You're just going to give it a good rinse. And you can see like in the cracks a little, there's some pollen, kind of gross. I typically go through just a few times up and down, all the way around a couple different times just to make sure you get all the little stuff. Some people like to buy a second one, so when they take it out, you can rinse it and put in a new one right away and let this one soak. It does add a little bit of life to it if you let it soak in an enhanced filter cleaner, but it's not necessary. You can just rinse it. This is probably about once a month. If you are fighting an algae problem, your cartridge may need to be cleaned more often than once a month. It may be every other day just to kind of clean that algae up, or anytime it loses power in the return. When you go to put the cartridge back in, there is technically an upside down, even though it doesn't look like it. If you can read the writing on it, it says Hayward, the way you would read it. So you don't want it upside down. You just kind of drop it into place. It goes on a lot easier if you make sure your air valve is open, and then you're just going to spin until it clicks. And then at that time, you make sure you put the black plug back in. Just go hand tight. And then you would open up your two shut-off valves again. Let the air bleed out the filter. You can hear it. This may take a minute or two because gravity will feed the whole tank. Comes out the end, you're just going to close it, and then you're good to turn it back on. So at the beginning of the year, when you open your pool, you need a mineral pack. That's the outer green ring. And this will last you a full pool season. And then you're going to also probably need roughly a 6-pack of torpedoes. And this you're going to change about every 2 weeks. To do that, again, we're going to make sure the filter's turned off. You might get your feet a little bit wet, but if you close this real quick, just kind of tap it a little bit of water is going to come out. You pull it out, you can check it. You can see it's just about empty. Pull the blue tab, and there's a big and a small. It can only go in one way. And then you just spin it on till it's tight. And that's that. So probably once a week, you're gonna wanna empty the skimmer basket that's inside here. And you're just gonna pull it out. I like to just tap mine on the side, make sure there's nothing in it, and just drop it right back in. And if you take a look over here, there's a basket inside here. Sometimes you need to clean that out, sometimes you don't. In order to do that, you're just gonna shut these 2 shutoffs real quick. And there's arrows and tell you which way to open and close. So it says open this way. Sometimes if that's really tough, you might need to kind of pull with one hand and hit with the other. Open this up, and you could just pull this basket out, shake it out, clean it nice. When putting that lid back on, there is an O-ring inside. You may need to put a little jack lube on. It'll help to go on, get a good seal. It will also help to go on a little easier and come off a little easier next time. If you struggle taking it off, just remember, it does get airtight. So it is pretty difficult. Sometimes we struggle and you just kind of push down, spin the direction it says close. You'll open these up. Open this just to make sure. And if water's coming out, you're good and you're all set. So there's also an O-ring on the inside of this. So when you take it off to clean your cartridge, if you're struggling to spin it on and off, you can always use some more Hayward's Jack's Lube on that O-ring. That's on the inside of the top tank.
All right. So before putting the dolphin in the pool for cleaning, you're gonna wanna make sure the basket's in place, lock it up, then just take your dolphin, put it in the pool. It may take it a moment or two to fill up with water, but it will sink to the bottom. So you want to turn on the power button, and then you can gently guide the hose into the swimming pool so it's not tangled or tied up. And you'll see that the dolphin does start to clean the pool. With this type of vacuum, you do not need to stay in the area. You can really just set it and forget it. When the dolphin is done its cleaning cycle, it will sit and wait for you until you come and take it out of the swimming pool. After the full cycle, you'll want to go ahead and open up the dolphin, take out the basket, clean it out, give it a good rinse with the garden hose before putting it back for storage. All right, so for manual vacuuming, you'll want to grab the manual vacuum head, put it on the skimmer pole. Next, you'll need to take your hose. Typical lengths are 25 feet to 30 feet, depending on what size pool you have. Then you can go ahead and place the manual vacuum down at the bottom of the pool and just let it rest. You can go ahead and drop the hose right into the swimming pool. Just make sure to hold on to the other end. Next, you'll need to turn on your filter. Go ahead and place the other end of the hose directly in front of the return. What this is going to do is it's going to fill the hose with water and help make a good suction connection. Once it's filled with water, you're going to want to go ahead and open up your skimmer. Place your vacuum attachment down on top of the skimmer basket, and then carefully slide the hose onto the top. For the manual vacuum, you do have to slowly go around the pool. You don't want to go too fast. You may stir up the bottom. So if you have the little shark vacuum, it's very similar to the manual vacuum, how you need to set it up. So you want to just go ahead and attach your hose to the shark. Put the hose into the water. Make sure you hold on to the other end. You're going to need to go ahead and place this side of the hose up against the return to get all the air out of the hose and to fill it with water. So go ahead and hold it in front of the return for a minute, and you'll see all the air coming out of the hose. Once you have it all filled, you're going to want to go over to your skimmer, take out your skimmer basket, because the reducer cone will need to go down to the bottom of the skimmer. Once you have good suction, you'll notice that the little shark does go around and clean the swimming pool. Now this one is different than a dolphin or a automatic vacuum with a computer chip in it. For this one, since it is using the force of the filter, you will need to stay in the area while it is cleaning, just in case it flips over or if anything happens with it.
Once your pool is all built and set up, you are going to want to put plastic and stone around your swimming pool. The stone makes it look really nice, gives it a nice clean finish to the edge, but the plastic is actually more important than the stone. And the way you're going to do that is if you go to Lowe's or Home Depot, they sell 3-foot rolls by 50 feet. You might need a couple. You're going to tape it up the wall, an inch or two, and then just let it run out, and then you're just going to cover it up with stone. So you can see here, there's plastic, and what the plastic does is prevent water from flowing underneath your pool. So the water will splash out, hit the pool, the plastic, and it'll go away from your pool. If you don't have plastic there, water eventually will get underneath your pool, can create some wrinkles in the liner from water. It could also create some washouts underneath.
All right, so now we're going to talk about the different chemicals you're going to need to keep your swimming pool clean. The first one, the most important one, is chlorine. Chlorine is the most common disinfectant used in swimming pools. A disinfectant inactivates or kills microorganisms and oxidizes, which means chemically destroys, contaminants as they enter water to protect users from pathogens brought into the water by people or from the environment. There's a few different readings you'll need to keep in mind when thinking about your chlorine levels. The first is free chlorine. I like to call this one good chlorine. So this is the active chlorine in water that is available to kill bacteria, algae, pathogens, and other contaminants. So standard chlorine pools should have chlorine levels of between 1 and 4 parts per million, whereas a swimming pool that runs on a mineral system should have a chlorine level of 0.5 to 1 part per million. So how to maintain those chlorine levels in a standard swimming pool? You're going to use big tabs to introduce chlorine into the water. For a mineral system, specifically our mineral system, you're going to use your torpedo pack. The next chlorine level that you want to keep in mind is chloramines, which is the portion of chlorine in water that has already reacted with contaminants. This we like to call bad chlorine. Chloramines do have a strong chlorine smell, so if you ever walk up to a swimming pool and have an overwhelming smell of chlorine, that is not a good sign, it's actually a bad sign. It means that the chlorine that is in the water is used up or dirty. The next reading is total chlorine, which is the amount of free chlorine and chloramines present in the water. So that's a combination of both your good and bad chlorine. Next level we'll discuss is pH. pH is the level of acidity in the pool water. The proper pH level for a swimming pool is anywhere between 7.2 and 7.8. The ideal range is between 7.4 and 7.6. If pH is too low or too high, it can cause skin and eye irritation for the bathers. If pH stays too low, it can cause vinyl liners to wrinkle and pool equipment to corrode. If your pH stays too high, it can cause scaling. To increase your pH, you're going to use a chemical called pH up, and to decrease the level, you'll use pH down. Shock is different than your routine chlorine, but just as important. It adds a larger than normal dose of chlorine to the pool, which sanitizes the water, but then the level quickly drops back down. There are two forms of shock, liquid and granular. Granular shock is a more concentrated and most effective form. Based on how many gallons are in your swimming pool, we can recommend how much shock to use, but a typical treatment is about 1 pound. So we have a few helpful tips for how to shock your swimming pool. Shock should only be added to the pool when the filter is running. It is best to add the shock to the pool in the evening. No one should swim in the pool for about 10 to 12 hours after shock is added. And shock should be dissolved in water prior to adding it to the pool. So the best way I like to shock is to take my pound of shock, put it in a bucket with a little bit of pool water. You don't have to mix it or dissolve it. We just want it in the water so you can't accidentally inhale it. And you're going to take that and pour it either directly into the skimmer or directly in front of the return while the filter is running. If you would prefer, you can add your 1 pound of shock directly in front of the return before while the filter is running, but I would suggest just turning away so you don't accidentally inhale it or get the shock into your eyes. So the CDC does recommend shocking the pool once a week unless you have a mineral system. Then you would want to shock once every other week. Next is alkalinity, which is the measure of certain minerals which act as buffering agents and allow you to readily adjust your pH levels. The proper alkalinity level in a swimming pool is between 60 and 180 parts per million. Ideal is between 80 and 100 parts per million. If alkalinity is too low or high, it will cause pH fluctuations. Low alkalinity causes corrosive water. High alkalinity will cause cloudy water, reduces circulation, and will plug up the filter. To increase your alkalinity level, you would use a chemical called alkalinity up. To decrease the alkalinity level, you will need pH down. So there are several different types of algae, including green, pink, black, and mustard, although the most common that you'll see is green algae. If you start to see any funky colors in the pool water, please give us a call or visit us. You can take a picture of your water and bring us a sample, and we'll help get you the correct treatment. An algicide treatment must always be used with shock, or it will not be as effective. A stabilizer is a chemical that prevents the sun's UV rays from affecting the chlorine levels. The stabilizer forms a protective bond around the chlorine to resist the sun's harmful effects. Essentially, it's acting like sunscreen. Both chlorine tabs and torpedo packs already have stabilizer in them, so no additional stabilizer should be needed. If too much stabilizer is added to the pool, the only way to reduce the level is to do a dilution, which could be very expensive. Calcium hardness is a quantitative measure of the calcium ion concentration present in your swimming pool water. The proper calcium level is between 200 and 400 parts per million. Treating the calcium level should be a slow and steady process. If too much calcium is added to the water, the only way to reduce the level is a dilution. High levels of calcium cause cloudy, milky water, will plug up the filter, and reduces circulation. To review, we'll quickly go through the levels that you'll want to maintain in your swimming pool water. Your chlorine level should be between 1 and 4 parts per million if you use chlorine tabs. If you have a mineral system, your chlorine level should be between 0.5 and 1 part per million. Your pH level should be anywhere between 7.2 and 7.8, although ideally we like to see it between 7.4 and 7.6. Your alkalinity should be between 60 and 180 parts per million, with an ideal level between 80 and 120. Your stabilizer should be above 35, and your calcium level should be anywhere between 200 and 400 parts per million.